Hello, welcome to the Waters and Stanton video channel. Thank you for joining me once again. I must thank you for the great support that you've been giving to this channel over the last couple of years, and this is now the third year that I've been running this channel, and I've made a lot of friends, had a lot of comments below the videos, and it's been very encouraging to read a lot of the comments where you identify with the things that we've covered in the videos, got some questions to ask, and also got some useful ideas about things that have been covered in the video or things that perhaps we should cover in future videos. I will do my best, and I do try to respond to a good majority of the comments, but you will appreciate that there's lots and lots of comments and I can't respond to all of them. One or two have actually said, look, we know that you run a ham radio company. In fact, we've been going for 49 years now. We know you run a ham radio company, but we do enjoy your videos, but we are quite curious as to why you don't include more equipment, being as you sell the equipment. Well, the short answer is that I've been in the business for 49 years and I've done an awful lot of advertising. And an awful lot of people know about us either by the adverts that we have in the press or the adverts that we now carry on the internet or by word of mouth. And I really feel that it's time that I sort of put something back into the hobby, because I've been licensed for over 60 years and I've accumulated quite a lot of knowledge, and a lot of this knowledge has been through experience, and I've made a lot of mistakes and got things wrong and found out why they've gone wrong. So by and large, this channel is a mixture of products. I do cover products because products still fascinate me, and we get new products, and I think it's worth having a look at them and seeing how they fit into perhaps your station or your requirements. But at the same time, as I say, I've never forgotten my roots in ham radio as a youngster, a young 16-year-old with not much money at all. And started off in a very sort of simple way, making lots and lots of mistakes on the way. And of course, if you make mistakes, you learn something, at least hopefully you do. So that, in short, is the answer to the question. Now, before we start on the subject matter of this video, which is basically how you can make your own low-cost Unan, 49-to-1 Unan, and save even more money, which of course I was keen to do when I was a 16-year-old. Not so much keen, I had to do it. But I thought it would be fun to occasionally look back in time over, say, a 50-year period. So here is just a few snippets that I've picked out of the 1972 January Radcom. It's only very short, but it's quite interesting. At least I hope it's interesting. Take a look. Radcom 1972, 50 years ago. An advert for KW Electronics for their KW2000B HF transceiver, 160 meters to 10 meters, approximately 100 watts. Price £240. Today's equivalent £2,200. Up until this time, members' adverts in the bulletin or Radcom had been free of charge. But due to increased printing costs and paper costs, the RSGB had to reluctantly charge members 25p for each advert. There was a circuit diagram of a VXO. That's a variable crystal oscillator that can pull a crystal. This oscillator fundamental was 8 MHz, designed to produce a harmonic signal in the 2 meter band, and it covered 144 to 145 MHz. Claimed stability in the first hour was 10 kHz. Well. But it improved once the ambient temperature had been reached. How things have changed. Well, 10 kHz stability in 1 hour. Of course, in those days, I think they were still using AM quite widely on the VHF bands, so perhaps it wasn't too bad. Anyway, back to the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show how you can create your own very effective HF antenna on a very, very low budget. I think it's the most cost-effective HF antenna currently available. It's the end-fed half-wave, which I've covered several times. First of all, I'm going to show you basically, just to remind you, how the end-fed half-wave works, and also a couple of things you might want to try. But then we're going to go straight in and show you how you can build your own 49:1 unknown. All you need is a soldering iron and a few components. It's a very, very worthwhile exercise, and it will produce a very, very effective HF antenna for your backyard or back garden. So let's take a look. An end-fed half-wave antenna basically relies on the fact that at the end of a half-wave you've got a high impedance, and if you have a transformer at the end of the wire that will match that high impedance, convert it down to something like 50 ohms to go into your transceiver, then we've got a very successful combination. We've got the convenience of end feeding in a half-wave length of wire. We've got a very good match using the transformer, which normally is a 49:1 unknown, and the output of that transformer, or the coax from that transformer, goes straight into your transceiver. On here we've got a typical example. This is a 7 MHz half-wave. A 7 MHz half-wave is 20 meters long. 7 MHz is 40 meter band, and if we halve 40 meters we get to 20 meters. So a half-wave on 7 MHz is 20 meters long. The advantage of an end-fed half-wave is that there is always a high impedance there on harmonics of the fundamental. So the fundamental is 7 MHz, the next harmonic is 14 MHz. Again, we've got a high impedance, so it resonates. We then go up to the 21 MHz band, which is the third harmonic. Again, we've got a high impedance, so again the antenna resonates as 3 half-waves. And we go to the 28 MHz band, which is the fourth harmonic. Again, we've got a high impedance, and so we get resonance on 10 meters as well. So a 20 meter long length of wire can be made to resonate on 4 bands and produce a low impedance feed to your transceiver, courtesy of the 49:1 unknown. One of the viewers to this channel, I think it was K4OAD, I hope I've got the call sign right, told me that he had a 39-foot length of wire in his backyard, and he'd made it resonate on 40 meters and 20 meters. And I think this is the circuit diagram that he would have used. I've converted this to meters. 13 meters is not exactly 39 feet, but in any case you'd have to adjust the antenna. Basically, he had a half-wave length of wire on 14 megahertz, which in feet would be approximately 33 feet, fed with the transformer at the end there, and he'd inserted a coil of 34 microhenries, and that coil acts as a choke on the 20 meter band, but allows energy through on 40 meters, and with a stub of around about 6 foot of wire there, you can actually make the antenna resonate on 40 meters as well. And it produces a compact system because this coil is a loading coil. So with this system you get operation on 20 meters, and with the addition of this 34 microhenry coil plus a bit of wire, 6 foot long, you get resonance on 40 meters. But you'll also get resonance on 10 meters, because we've just learnt that a half wave will work on its harmonics. So the second harmonic of 14 megahertz is the 10 meter band, 28 megahertz, and this choke will also choke off energy, so it acts as an insulator on both 20 meters and 10 meters. So you've got a 3-band antenna there. Now, although I haven't tried this yet, some of you may want to give this a try and see how it works. Taking the antenna that I just showed you one step further, we could put in a 15 meter or 21 megahertz trap there. So if we make this length of wire there a half wave on 21 megahertz, which is around about 22 feet, we make that a half wave on the 15 meter band or the 21 megahertz band, and then we put a 15 meter trap in there. That acts as an insulator, but only on the 15-metre band. If we add some extra wire, we can then make this antenna also resonate on 20 metres. So we've got the half wave there on 21 megahertz, trap to trap it off. That starts to act as a bit of an inductor on 20 metres, allows 20 metres energy through, and with an extra length of wire, and I can't tell you what the length you need, you'd have to try that for yourself, we can make it resonate on 20 metres. We can use the trap system that K4OAD suggested, 34 microhenries, and that value is not supercritical. We can use that to act as an isolator, so we've got an antenna basically that covers 21 megahertz, 50 metre trap, energy through there, gives us resonance on 20 metres as well. We can then add that bit of wire there to make the whole thing work on 40 metres. So we've now got a 15, 20 metre and 40 metre antenna. What I don't know, and I'd have to try this out, is whether we can make that antenna also show resonance on 10 metres, because clearly that trap is going to have some effect on the resonance. It's a question of suck it and see, get out in the garden when the rain stops and try it for yourself. These are the items that you need to make your 49:1 transformer. You need two capacitors, and the capacitors are available from RS Components. The product code is 7167298. You need some tinned copper wire. I've used 18 SWG, standard wire gauge wire, and the length you need is approximately 1.1 metres. That's what you need for the winding and the link. Now, the reason I've used tin copper wire is because it's easier to solder rather than have to mess about with enamelled copper wire. Because the ferrite core is non-conductive, you can put the wire straight onto it, but sometimes I've used plumber's tape, which protects the core and gives it a bit of a cushion for winding the wire. The ferrite core is a 43 mix, and that is available from RS. It's actually manufactured in the US, but you can get it from RS Components. And I'll give you the code number. It's 467-4172. Now, they're not cheap. I think the current price is around about £12. I seem to remember that I only paid about £6 or £7 about a year ago, but obviously prices have gone up. So it's not cheap, but really that is the central part of the transformer, and it's worth paying that because you will get good performance. I'm sure if you hunt around you may well find it cheaper, but if all else fails you know where to get it. So let's now wind the coil onto the ferrite core. We need to put 7 turns either side of this, using this wire, and every time the wire passes through the inner of the ring, that's counted as a turn. So we've got 2 turns on there so far. I tend to push the wire through with my thumb. It's well, it seems to me is the easy way to get to fairly tight winding. So I think you get the idea. Obviously we don't want the windings touching at all. Now I've put on 7 turns so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this will be the 7th turn. But this time, rather than go round, we're going to push this through the ring like this. And I'm going to take the winding across to the other side and wind in the opposite direction. Push that through there. So that's the 8th turn. And we carry on winding the wire through, keeping it spaced so that we don't short, although you can tidy it up once you've got the winders on anyway. There's plenty of room there. So that's the coil now wound. We've got 7 turns on each side. The 7th turn is the one that goes across there underneath, and we start to wind in the opposite direction. The reason I've left a bit more wire on this side is because I'm going to cut some of this off, because I want to put a tap on the 2nd turn. So we're going to put a tap on there, on that point on the coil, and we're going to do it by actually soldering a wire at that point there, and that will then give us the input, and that wire will go to the inner of the coax cable. So let's chop a bit of wire off there. Cut a bit of wire off there, and that then, the rest of that wire will go to the terminal where the end-fed half wave will attach to. Now we very carefully need to just put a screwdriver under there and raise that bit of wire a little bit there. Now, having raised that bit of wire a bit, I can now thread this piece of wire through here, bend it up like that, and then crimp it with some pliers so it's ready to be soldered. Now I'm hoping you can see that I've crimped that wire onto the 2nd turn, and now what I've got to do is to solder it. Now you can see that I've soldered the other wire onto the tap, the 2nd turn up from the bottom. So on the left hand side you've got the wire that will go to the antenna. On the right hand side you've got 2 wires. The bottom wire, which is effectively earth, will go to the outer sheath of the coax, and the other wire just above that, which is on the 2nd tap of the coil, that will go to the inner conductor of the coax. We need to put 110 picofarad across the input of the transformer, and because I've got 220 picofarad capacitors, if I put them in series, I'll twist those 2 legs together, solder those, and then I'll show you, I hope you can see that there. Put those 2 legs together, then one leg of one capacitor goes to that side and the other leg goes to that side. And because capacitors in series, if you have 2 capacitors in series that are 220, because they're in series they become 110 picofarad. So we're going to end up with a pair of capacitors across the input there. I'll solder them on, and that will give us a 110 picofarad across the input line, and that helps with the HF performance on the upper part of the band of the spectrum, 15 metres and 10 metres in particular. And there we are, that's the 2 legs soldered together. It needs to be trimmed back a bit long, but anyway, they've been soldered together. One tip I would say is whenever you solder capacitors like that, always grab the legs with a pair of pliers so that the pliers are very near the actual head of the capacitor, so it acts as a heat shunt. So you put the pliers there and then solder, and the same when you solder these onto the wires on the transformer. Grip the wire there with a pair of long nose pliers, it acts as a heat shunt. Now here you see I've soldered the capacitors across the input, and that centre join there just needs to be trimmed back, the join between the 2 capacitors. So the finished unit is very compact, very simple to make, and there you have a 49:1 un ready to feed your half-wave antenna. Now even in this form it's usable. You connect your antenna there on the left, your coax on the right, you could just solder the coax on or whatever, and then just hang it inside the window. On the left hand side the feed goes through the window to the antenna. Now for using it outside, I did purchase a couple of boxes, again from RS Components. Put a terminal on there, that's the wire goes on there. And then on the other end, you've got your SO239 for your coax cable. And these here were a means of supporting the unit in some way. I think what I did was I took the end-fed half wave, put about 2 or 3 turns around there, and then put the wire in there, so all the strain is taken on there. And I think the coax I just let dangle down, but you know, there's all sorts of things you can do, but basically you do need something to take the strain off of the wire at that end. That is the critical part, the wire at that end. Now, since doing that little demo there, I found that you actually can purchase the ferrite core, the 240 oblique 43 ferrite core, at about half the price, or slightly under half the price that RS Components charge. What I don't know is whether the cheap ones are exactly as good as the more expensive ones. The ones that RS sell are the ferrite ones that come from the USA, and they are a very, very good brand of ferrite. So whether the cheaper ones that claim to be the same material work as well, I just don't know. But you may decide to try it for yourself. Either way, it's a very, very effective antenna. And as I said at the beginning of this, I think that it's probably the most effective and most economical HF antenna that you can actually put together. Very low cost indeed, guaranteed results. So many people have written to me and said how amazed they are, and it doesn't cost much to actually put it all together. So I hope this video has been helpful. And there will be some more videos coming up, of course. I'll try to do one a week. Oh, by the way, the TX500, the Lab 599 TX500, we're now on our 3rd shipment. The 3rd shipment has left Russia, and it should be with us around about the 20th of this month, 20th of January, so not too long to wait. So if you are waiting for one, if you've got one ordered or you're thinking of buying one, bear in mind that we should have them certainly by the end of this month. So, as usual, thank you for watching this video. It's great to have your company, great to have your support, and until the next time, take care. See you in the next video.